In Victoria, average rents have increased by 30% from 2005 to 2014. This is an average annual increase of 3.2% per year. The rent of a one-bedroom apartment is now set at $865 per month. According to the CMHC, single-detached dwellings in Victoria are the second most expensive in Canada. They are nearly $600,000, which is $100,000 more than in Toronto, and only surpassed by notorious housing prices in Metro Vancouver. Housing is a basic human need. All people deserve access to housing that is safe, stable, and affordable, and that supports personal and public health. In 2015, there were 1,240 households on BC's social housing waitlist in Capital District region. Seniors accounted for 40% of them. We interviewed Rob Hurst from Ammerman House, a home and meeting ground for many of Victoria's street community, to get his view on housing affordability.
Ammerman House is a transitional house, a safe house, and a refuge for people who are living on the streets and living in poverty. And basically we offer two programs: a transitional house, which 7 people can come and live as they're transitioning from living on the streets to their own housing, and then also the drop-in program. While people are living here, they can contribute back to society by preparing meals, doing the chores, and helping out with the drop-in program, to which we see about 30 to 60 people a day. And the drop-in program offers everything from showers, laundry, free clothing, houseware items to set up your house with, free counseling, free career counseling, things of that nature. And we also offer support workers that can help people to set up a strategy or an action plan to get themselves where they're hoping to be. Well, for sure, Ammerman House has been part of the Downtown Service Providers meetings. We've also partnered with many other organizations and have been in talks with other organizations about how we can blossom as a larger player in this game. For sure, we have ideas, and we've been on board with other people that are trying to reach the common goals that we have, and that is to help people who are living on the streets transition to permanent housing.
Housing affordability is a major issue for many Victorians, especially those who earn low to moderate incomes. There are 41,000 households in Victoria, of which 60% are renters. Almost half of all renters and a quarter of all owners demonstrate affordable housing needs, which means they spend 30% or more of their total pre-tax household income. While 50% of Greater Victoria's population earns little to moderate income, only 14% of the city's total housing supply is devoted to these groups. 65% of Victoria's housing supply is aimed for those making $100,000 or more. This provides a clear representation of Victoria's affordability issues.
A lack of affordable housing is a problem for much of this city. Anyone who is really making under $50,000 a year has probably felt it, and could probably attest to that. It's really difficult to apartment search in this city, and the costs are only going up. I believe we now stand at, if not the third, at least up in the top 5 most expensive cities to find housing in this country. So yeah, we definitely have an issue when it comes to housing costs. When a city requires that people spend 55% of their income on housing, it's really hard for a person who is just trying to pick themselves up off the ground to get settled in. One thing that you're also seeing a lot of nowadays, not just with our clients, but with people that have just finished university, is that people are starting to have to share housing with other people. And people who have university degrees are now having to find shared housing and roommates, which, 10, 20 years ago, that was unrealistic. You could be working at a restaurant and have absolutely no university training and get your own apartment. The Pacific Northwest has a way more comprehensive strategy when it comes to housing than much of the rest of North America. For sure, the people here are a great people. People that believe in helping out with humanity and believe in giving back to the community, and not to say that they don't elsewhere, such as Cincinnati or so forth. It's just that the attention and the focus and the funds are there. And so we are making great strides to become a leader in this and to set an example of what it means to help out our fellow humanity. But yeah, I think we're on a right track. I think that Housing First is a something that's new and for much of the continent, and something that is definitely considered. I think that the NOM House strategy of helping people to transition slowly from the streets to a shared housing to their own housing is definitely a workable model that I think that needs to have more attention brought to, rather than more institutional style facilities,
For sure.
which tend to put the soul and tend to put the person's inner core not first and foremost, because it's more about just making sure we get necessities met, which is crucial. It's important, but we also can't forget that other part, because that's what keeps a person housed. It's hard to say whether or not gentrification plays a part. Of course it does. It always does. Whether we have our biases, whether we have our desires, our own motivations for mixing and coming together and separating, that's left to be told. History will tell that for sure, but I think that we'd be naive to say that it doesn't play any factor.
Maybe it's just a bit more subtle than other places.
Perhaps more subtle. Perhaps it's not necessarily race lines as much as it is socioeconomic and education lines, or perhaps immigration lines versus non-immigration lines, or perhaps who knows. I think it is more subtle as black and white.
When people do not have access to housing, some are forced to take extreme measures. This is an issue not only for the homeless in the downtown core, but also for students from the University of Victoria, such as Chase Ryan.
Every year it's become increasingly difficult to find affordable housing. When I was first coming down here, about a week before the semester started, I had a place all lined up, an apartment downtown with a roommate, and he bailed. I had sent him my first month's rent and my damage deposit. He returned both of them back to me and said, "Sorry bud, someone else has paid me more for the same apartment." So that was it. I didn't have a house when the semester started, so I brought down my tent, parked it in a local campground, and for the first 3 weeks of school, I went back to my tent and slept there at the end of the night. When I'm spending more money on housing, I'm spending less money on other things. Even just making a vehicle affordable in Victoria now is becoming impossible. Just putting money in my gas tank.
We got in touch with Lindsay Milburn, the Senior Planner for Housing Policy at the City of Victoria. She is responsible for implementing the Victoria Housing Strategy for 2016 to 2025. Over the phone, she outlined a few different strategies the city is working on to enhance affordability. The Mayor's Task Force is actively encouraging the development of a more diverse array of housing by focusing on 3 streams that, in collaboration, can flow towards effective housing solutions. These include zoning and building more garden suites, options for moderate income earners, and capital grants and housing agreements. Social housing is subsidized by either the government or a local nonprofit, while mortgages rely on subsistence. Efforts are largely being put towards lowering the price of rentals. A variety of new condominiums are being developed in the downtown core, including the Hudson, Janyan, and Dockside Green. Some of these are on brownfield sites. While the City of Victoria is mostly involved in approving these new developments and consulting with developers, it does not deal with the term gentrification or formally acknowledge this concept.
Affordable housing is an important component to Victoria's transition to becoming a leader in urban sustainability while remaining one of Canada's most livable cities. Victoria's housing strategy is working towards increasing the supply and diversity of housing to meet current and future needs of low and moderate income households. The principle of social integration, both across the city and within neighborhoods, must underlie Victoria's approach to housing in order to elicit progressive and lasting change.